So recently, a good friend of mine asked me to recommend a guitar for her 18-year-old son, and I'll share that recommendation with you in a minute. But it got me thinking about my first guitar buying experience back in 1983. And at that time, I was just obsessed with Eddie Van Halen. I'd spent hours and hours alone in my bedroom with my headphones on, dissecting every single song, imagining what it would be like to play those songs on stage, and eventually starting to familiarize myself with the instrument, utilizing this incredible guitar, my dad's 1963 0018 Martin, which he was so incredibly generous with. Kind of blows my mind that he took it in stride when one day I decided to inexplicably carve our last name on the top. But eventually I got some semblance of competence on the instrument. And one day my mom took me down to Music Mart on South State Street in Ann Arbor. And anybody who knew me back then would not be surprised to find out that the guitar I chose that day had nothing to do with the way the neck felt or the pickup sounded. It was simply because it was the only guitar in the store that was painted like Van Halen's Bumblebee guitar, which you can see on the back of Van Halen 2. Otherwise, it was a complete piece of crap. I think it was either a Hondo or a Cort. It was kind of shaped like a Les Paul Special, but it had to weigh at least 12 pounds. But I love that guitar, and that really inspired me to kind of spend even more time practicing. And eventually, my parents were kind enough to help me purchase an Ibanez Roadstar 2, which was a much, much better instrument. Much better neck, better pickups, so much lighter. Although the bridge would be described as having been designed by a circus clown. But again, it was functional, and that served me well for a number of years. Allowed me to join my first band, and took me well into my senior year of high school, at which time I bought what was called a Fender Contemporary Strat. It was kind of Fender's answer to the growing Super Strat market, and that guitar was meant to compete with brands like Kramer, Charvel, Jackson, and the kind of Ibanez RG precursors. And that was a great guitar. It had a ebony neck, single pickup, Shaler locking system, which it was definitely no Floyd Rose, but it was functional. And I love that guitar. I covered that with stickers and played that through the rest of my senior year, every party we played and at the Battle of the Bands. I still wish I had those early guitars. If you take nothing away from this video, don't sell your first few guitars. There's a sentimental value to them that's priceless. But as I was thinking about what guitar to recommend, there was a part of me that feels like your first guitar should not be ideal. It shouldn't flatter you. It should kind of make you want to work for something better. However, in the modern era, it's very hard to find a poor guitar regardless of the price range. I mean, any guitar nowadays is going to be light years ahead of yesteryear's Tesco Del Reys and Hondos and Corts. So with that in mind, and understanding there are a number of great alternatives, the guitar I would recommend is this guitar. This is the SECE 24. Now, this model comes in a satin finish, which retails for about $500. This particular model with a maple top retails for $700, although you can find one in mint condition for about $500 on Reverb. And I would not recommend spending more than around $500 for a guitar. Again, because you can get something pretty incredible for that price range. This is a prime example of that. This guitar plays and feels like a much, much more expensive instrument. It also has a very versatile pickup system, particularly with this coil tap. So you can get up to 6 different tones with this. I'd say the only thing that hints that this is a lower end guitar is the pickups, particularly the coil tap. It's described by PRS as producing kind of shimmering single coil tones, but I describe them as more kind of functional, not necessarily inspiring, but they definitely do the job. The nice thing about this guitar is, kind of to use a car analogy, it's got great bones, like a great chassis. So as your playing improves and your taste matures, um, you'd simply need to swap out pickups, and you could have an incredible guitar that could last you a lifetime. To demonstrate how good this guitar is, rather than a technical review where I go through all the specs and play through each pickup configuration, I thought I might instead create a track that requires a wide range of tones, from kind of hyper cleans to saturated lead tones. So I'll play that for you now. Before I do, I would love to hear what your first guitar was. And I'd also love to hear what other guitars you might recommend to someone who's just starting out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy.